Hola, my name is Tania Lopez. I'm a Latina mom and chef from the Bronx, New York.
Hola, and I'm her son, Miguel Xavier Diaz Lopez. I'm a mechanical engineer working with NASA and studying for a PhD at Johns Hopkins University.
We love to share stories about
Latinos getting shit done.
Welcome back to More Than Rice and Beans, a mother-son podcast about food, culture, relationships, and the Latinx community. I'm Tania, a Spanish chef and founder of Coqui the Chef, a New York City-based culinary business that teaches online cooking classes, ships authentic Spanish products, and teaches the importance of cultural foods, family traditions, music, and history.
And I'm her son, Miguel. I'm a PhD student in aerospace engineering at Johns Hopkins University. Our lives are pretty busy, but my mom and I always try to connect to talk about food, culture, swap some stories, and just catch up on life.
Today, we are joined by a very special guest I know you will love, Melissa del Toro.
Hola, good morning.
Good morning. Melissa is the founder and CEO of Melissa del Toro International, a production company where she offers the absolute best voice acting. She's done everything from audiobooks to corporate narration, bringing her warm midwestern voice and unique charm to projects for small businesses to huge corporations alike. She's also the host of the Untold Tales podcast, a collection of short stories that range from Victorian sci-fi to parallel realities. We are so excited to welcome Melissa to our show. So, Melissa, I have this question for you. Are you ready for all my crazy questions?
Uh-oh, I think so. I hope so.
Perfecto. When most of us hear the term voice actor, we're probably thinking of voices behind cartoon characters. Can you give us a bit more insight into what a voice actor really does and how did you get started?
Absolutely. It's funny that people go to cartoons because that's the most obvious, but you hear a voiceover probably every 30 seconds in your day. Voice actors do commercials on TV and radio. They do announcements, video games, apps, toys. Geez, there's, like you said, the e-learning and corporate narrations. There's something that I've been involved in a lot is event announcements. It's called Voice of God, which is a very nice thing to say that you do. But the voice of God. And then, like you said, audiobooks is huge. Audiobooks are exploding. And then trailers, movie trailers, and promote the Hallmark Channel. All of that is voice actors. So, and all of those different genres have their own unique trainings associated with them.
So how did you get started? Like you just woke up one morning and said, hey, I'm just going to be a voiceover actor. Yeah, that's it.
Being Puerto Rican, no, that's not how it works. So, my story is much like probably a lot of people. I was a little girl in a Puerto Rican family living in a Jewish neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Isn't that how we all start our life? A smallish neighborhood, but in a big city. And I never thought of any kind of acting, any kind of creative art career, because that wasn't the kind of career that could make money. That's not a kind of career in the Latin community that is typically associated with something you want your kids to do when they grow up. You want them to be teachers, lawyers, doctors, engineers, anything like that. So I never thought more than playing Barbies that my voice acting was fun. That was the maximum of what it would ever amount to. So I went to school for electrical engineering, and I graduated from Penn State University. And I worked in the construction industry for 15 years, like every good, strong Latina young woman is supposed to. I got my MBA. I went on to get a certificate for project management at Villanova. So basically, I laid the foundation of my early life to have a professional career, and it's really actually served me quite well in my dream towards voice acting. But I didn't get brave enough until I'd really had it with life. And I was about 30, maybe I was 40. I was 40 years old when I decided to take the jump. And it was because I had a series of challenges in my work in Manhattan, where I lived at the time, in New York City. And I finally was just like, I am done with this life. And then I had just gotten married at 40 and I wanted to have a child. So I started my own business, not with the intention of voice acting. So here again, in my 40s, I'm still not committed to it. And this is an answer to your question, and it's a long one, and this is how it usually works. So if people feel it's taking a long time for their dreams to come true, this is actually often how they do come true. So I started my business online as a project manager, and then my father died. And after that, I was pretty much shattered. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't make any money. And I figured, if I can't even make money doing what I paid to go to school to do, might as well do what it is that I've always wanted to do, which was voice acting, and which I was good at anyway. And so I took the plunge in 2019. It's only been a few years. And then the world just accepted me with open arms, and I went into voice acting. And I had volunteered in New York City for an organization called Learning Ally, and I had taken voiceover classes in the past 20 years. And that's how I knew that's something I wanted to do. But I really didn't put my foot solidly down on it until after my father's passing. And I felt like that whole career, that whole life, I felt like it was for him and for my mother. And I didn't really feel like it was for me. But now I'm living for me, and it's a lot of fun.
That's very interesting. It sort of reminds me of the trifecta of life, where they say, find what you love, be good at it, and the whole world supports you.
Yeah,
It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And I wasn't bad at engineering. I loved it, but I never felt like I could creatively express myself in that environment, because sort of making silly voices and, is not really socially acceptable in the engineering workplace. That's where I learned all the discipline that I use for my business now. So I'm eternally grateful for it.
Yeah, talking about your business, you sound incredible. So can you tell us a bit about your home studio? And knowing that you're an electrical engineer, it must have been really easy for you to put it all together and figure this all out.
It's funny enough, because when you're trained as an engineer, you don't always know how to build things with your hands. So my husband, he's actually a grip in the movie and television industry, and he does handyman work, and he's the one who actually built my booth. It's a 360-degree surrounded acoustical blanket booth. So it's wonderful because I can kind of open it up when it gets too hot in here and all that kind of thing. And then I have a Rode NT1A microphone with a pop filter that nobody can see because you're listening. But if you could, maybe you go to my Instagram and you can see it.
I think it looks pretty cool. I can see it, everybody.
Yeah, you can see it. And I have a Focusrite 2i2 interface to connect my microphone to my computer. So basically it takes all those analog, beautiful sounds, and it puts it through an interface and into my computer so that my DAW, or my digital workstation, can interpret the subtleties and innuendos in my voice.
Ooh, nice. How has being bilingual impacted your work as a voice actor?
Well, now in this age of more sensitivity to inclusion of minorities, it has been amazing. I get half of my work requesting Spanish voiceover. And
Nice.
The challenge is that I feel very self-conscious. As a white passing person, you can hear my voice right now. I don't really sound like I'm from any particular country, or I don't sound like I'm from La Isla, or I don't sound like I'm from any borough in New York. So it's really challenging because I feel very self-conscious about the authenticity of my accent. Even though I'm 100% Puerto Riqueña, my tongue doesn't flow like other Puerto Riqueños. I have to work really hard because my tongue formed to the English language first. That's the language that my parents taught me first, because they didn't want me to experience the racism that they experienced in their lifetime. They wanted me to sound more American English speaking than they did American Spanish speaking. So it's been challenging to get my Spanish up to snuff.
Do you have the New Yorican accent, at least a little bit of it?
When I'm around a lot of New Yorkers, I can fit in. But if I'm
Okay.
away from it a while, it just sounds, to me, it sounds laughable. And for me, I'm not into mocking accents. Maybe anybody who's listened to the podcast, which I'm sure we'll talk about, I actually hire a dialect coach every time I need to do an accent that I'm not comfortable with, because it's really important to me that people feel that my characters are authentic and that I am not trying to make fun of an accent, because I take that really seriously. I think our voice is who we are, and it's not fair to make fun of it. So I try my best. Maybe sometimes it sounds weird, but I try my best to make it sound authentic.
I like that. Okay. What would your advice be for someone interested in getting into this field?
Wow. So the advice is very different than even 5 years ago. It's much more accessible now. The equipment is much cheaper. It's not cheap, but it's much cheaper, much more affordable, we could say, than it was in the past. However, because of COVID, everybody, including your voiceover coaches and your actors and people on TV, have built home recording studios that are broadcast quality. I have Source Connect as well, so I can connect with any studio around the world that has Source Connect, which connects computer to computer and allows them to record my microphone on their computer. It's very challenging, but it's not. It's if the dream is in your mind, if the dream to become a voice actor is in your mind, then it's for you and you have to go for it, because it's not something that everybody is given a dream for, right? Not everybody wants to go to NASA and study aerospace engineering and go to outer space, I would suggest that if you think you like voiceover, it has nothing to do, well, let's put it this way. It has about 5% to do with your voice. It has 95% to do with what you do with your voice. So if you have that beautiful, buttery radio voice or whatever, you need to train it. The first thing is to take a class. I have a free resource on my website. There's a place called Edge Studio, and they have affordable classes. Take a class first, intro to voiceover class first, and then go into a closet, into a tight space, sit in front of your computer and a microphone and read a book out loud to yourself for 2 hours and see if that is something that you like and you want to try your hand at it, or if it's not for you, because you don't want to go and buy all this equipment and find out, oh my goodness, I could never do this for a living. It's too isolated. I don't have anybody here helping me. It's too much tech, because we have to do all of it. And then you have to run your business. You have to run a business like a real business owner nowadays.
Miguel and I, this is our first time podcasting. It's actually our second season. And the first season, I was like, I'm not liking my voice too much. I don't like the fact that I say like and so and this and that. And then I was like, how can I change that voice? How can I make it better? Second season, I paid more attention to what I was saying. And okay, I think I'm getting better at this. But I still not happy with my voice. I like my voice, but not as much. I don't like my laugh too much. Everybody says they like it. And I'm like, why am I being so picky with myself when everybody gives me good feedback?
Yeah.
So I honestly want to get better at it. Do you think voiceover would help me as a podcast host?
I love this question so much, Tania. Because our voice is who we are. It's a combination of what we look like, because it's a combination of the bones of your face, your nose structure, your mouth, your throat, your back, your head. Your voice is you. So I would encourage anybody who doesn't like saying filler words, is what you're talking about. I actually did Toastmasters for 5 years in New York City. Toastmasters is an amazing organization. They give you a very structured program to go through, and almost every city has one. I'm sure they do them virtually now as well. And you practice speaking, number one, extemporaneously, which is just speaking off the cuff, kind of like we're doing, or to memorize speeches and give them. And then you'll have somebody in the audience or someone who's assigned to count your filler words, ums, uhs.
Oh.
And so, your first speech, you might be going, and, like, but then when you start to get conscious of it, you slow down. You make room for silence. If you don't have anything to say, you don't have to say anything. Just
Yes.
close your mouth.
That's what I was thinking too. I'm always thinking it's okay to
Yeah.
just have a pause.
Yeah,
Why do
because
we have to fill it in?
exactly. Because see, my tongue is trying to sabotage me here. With Puerto Ricanos, we feel like we need to fill up all the space. We need to fill up with our energy, with our speaking, everything. We talk on top of each other so that nobody has to wait and get an awkward silence. The great thing is that we have editing and we have tools that we can clip out silences. And you know what? Sometimes the silence actually gives more meaning to what you're saying. Instead of tripping all over your words, just stop talking for a second and everybody's going to be like, what happened? Why is it quiet?
It creates that. It's like, what's going to happen next? Like,
yeah.
well, and I think that's a pretty cool part.
And if it's an impactful statement, it kind of gives the audience time to think about what you just said.
Yeah.
Is if you're just constantly talking, they don't get time to process. Then even you could see like the best quote in history, but nobody will understand it because you just keep on talking.
Yes. So, and as far as the quality of your voice, you can practice bringing it down a little bit, warming it up a little bit. Voiceover coaching and training is all about learning all of the nuances of your voice. You can take it up high, you can take it down low. And then you could slow it up, you could speed it or slow it down and speed it up. You can do all kinds of things with your own instrument. It's like playing the piano or the guitar or anything. It's just learning how to play your own voice. And that's it. And you can have a lot of different voices. It doesn't just have to be like a high nasally sound or a low gravelly sound. Your voice is very beautiful and you can manipulate it however you want. You can even learn a different accent, even with your strong Puerto Rican accent.
So actually, I have a few questions outside of what we've already discussed. One of them being is that since you come from an electrical engineering background, I am curious about how that has affected you, like with your business, if that has helped you at all, like the fact that you come from that background.
It's helped me a gajillion percent. Is there a number bigger than a gajillion? A Googleplex? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's helped me immensely. First of all, this industry, many moons ago, you just come in and you're the talent, you're the voice, and there's a studio engineer who would record you and do all the ugly stuff behind it and send it in. Or you would go in to audition at a studio. Nowadays, with all the home recording studios, you need to do all that yourself, and you have to be pretty good at it. Because a lot of people have recorded commercials from their car, from a microphone in their car studio.
Wow.
So you need to be really good at recording the waveform, cleaning it up to submit auditions, which happen super fast. Nowadays, you need to be very good with the technical aspect of editing your audio so that it sounds good to send to agents. You have to be able to edit it to send to clients. So you basically have to be your own audio engineer. It moves so quickly, you can't really hire that out. So to answer your question, Miguel, being an electrical engineer has given me the technical courageousness to learn new software quickly, to understand what's happening with a waveform, to understand low-pass and high-pass filters, to understand what resonance might mean, or if we have feedback on the line, what does that mean? I understand that mathematically. I could write you an equation for that. Well, maybe not now, when I was in school. I forgot a lot of that. But as far as the technical aspect, it's helped me a lot. And then as far as running a business, even if I wasn't doing something technical, being an engineer is being a problem solver. So I know how to look things up. I know where to find information. I know how to install a new software or get help for it. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of financing. I'm not afraid of accounting. I'm not afraid of taxes. I'm afraid of a lot of other stuff. But as far as running my business, engineering is an amazing foundation for running your own business.
You
And
heard that?
another question that I was curious about is that since you were mentioning how coming from a Puerto Rican background, like your parents kind of pushed onto you that idea of you have to be a doctor, engineer, or something like that, even if that wasn't really what you wanted to do. I'm curious as to how you think you're going to try to change that with how you're raising your daughter now that you've gone through that experience of doing something for your parents and now doing something for yourself, how you're going to change that.
Yeah, I love this question too, Miguel. You guys ask the best questions. And I've been on some podcasts. These are great, great, great questions. So here's the illusion. You're going to go to school. You're going to get a job when you get out of school, which is a total illusion nowadays. And you're going to be able to pay back all the loans you took out, or that you're going to even be able to save enough money to go to college. It's just, and that the college is even going to help you. My thing is that education, knowledge is power, right? We all know that from Schoolhouse Rock if we're old enough. Knowledge is power. So an education will never hurt you. An education will give you the structure that you need to solve problems in life. It doesn't matter what kind of college education. Obviously, the better educated you are. However, YouTubers are making $500,000 these days, and doctors make like 200,000, maybe. So it's crazy how an expensive college degree may not work out to your financial benefit in your life. So the most important thing, I think your mom, Tania, said at the beginning is to love what you do. And in the Hispanic community, I think that there's enough mothers and women with their own businesses now that maybe we're making a tipping point with our children to let them know that business ownership is an option, college is an option, a trade school is an option, and art is an option, and there is help whichever way you choose to go. But as far as changing my grandma's mind, I tell her I have a business, and she asks me questions like, maybe you can get more work if you go downtown and speak to the main office of the mayor, and maybe you can get a secretarial position. Like, she just has no idea about having your own business. And then she'll say things like, can you hire your uncle? And I'm like, no, I cannot
The
hire
famous
my uncle.
question.
Yeah,
The famous question.
no, I cannot hire my uncle. Do you even know what I do? If I told her I spoke in funny voices for a living, she would have zero clue what to do with that. But there are people playing video games for a living.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody understands what to do with that. So we live in a different world that we need to keep evolving. We need to keep learning. And people that aren't evolving and learning, and our ancestors that don't understand, they just will fade away and they just won't move forward.
Thank you.
You mentioned this in previous questions, but I wanted you to delve a bit more into this. Is this idea of being like a white passing Hispanic, and how that has affected you in your company or throughout your entire life, how that has changed things?
Yeah. I'm starting to get emotional about it. I never really cared. Like, I never saw myself as a female or a Latina or anything. I'm just me. I'm just like myself. And like, we're friends and I will help you. And like, I never saw myself as a thing. But nowadays, with everybody wanting to categorize everything and it being beneficial financially sometimes to have a Hispanic background because people are offering you assistance, which is wonderful. I'm actually a minority owned, women owned business in New York City. So that's kind of wonderful. But being white passing has its challenges because when you look at me, you know I'm not white. And when you hear me, that there's something different, that I'm not a Karen or a Susan kind of, sound. And that's a very accepted sound on TV, on commercials and movie trailers. People want to hear sort of that what your ethnicity is over the audio. And because I'm white passing, but I'm Hispanic, it's a little confusing when you hear me. What does she look like? I can't even picture what she looks like. But it does work to my advantage when I'm in characters because nobody knows who I am. And so I am whatever I tell you I am, and that's pretty cool. So being white passing has been a double-edged sword, but it's been more good than bad, especially in the engineering industry and initiatives they've taken with women and Latinas. In the construction industry, I had to work a little harder, which is why I learned how to use my voice in a more authoritative way. I will throw my voice out a little bit more. I will be a little bit more aggressive. I will be a little louder if I need to be. And that's all just using my instrument to get things done.
You actually said something really important, which is something that I've been over the years trying to find that voice, that aggressive voice, the authoritative voice of a woman-owned business, because I find sometimes that I'm, of course, in the culinary business. I'm surrounded by men. Mostly men are chef. Very few are women. It's hard for a woman in a culinary business to say, I don't want this or I don't want that. Do not do this to me or say this or say that. And I hate it. I hate being like I have to raise my voice to show you that this is what I want to do to achieve what I need to achieve.
Right.
Meantime, you can raise your voice at me, and if I point it out to you that you're raising your voice at me, it's wrong. No, that's why I really think that voiceover or acting or everything can help in so many things. Public speaking.
Yes.
All this is so essential for a woman in a business, because the man already has that deep voice.
Yes.
He already has that. He has the gift. That's his gift. The woman doesn't have that. She has a nice little cute voice because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's
now it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because that's a very Latin way of thinking, what you just said. Some men have high voices and some women have very low voices. It's not a man-woman thing. Maybe it's a more masculine, feminine thing, but girls don't have to have a mousy voice. And if you meet a lot of women, they don't. Sometimes we actually sound like this because we're a little bit less confident about what we are or who we stand for, or maybe he brings in more money than me, and so I start to talk like this. And that's not necessarily your voice. That's a part of your voice. That's a frequency range, Miguel, of your voice, right? You have a frequency range from here to here. So if you want to sit in there and use this voice all the time, that's fine. And especially if you're talking to children or if you're talking to women, it's a really effective way to make a connection. But if you're speaking with a man and you speak like this and you talk to them like this and you respect them, I respect you, and I'm not raising my voice. I have a big voice, I have a big personality or whatever. I think matching energy with somebody is a great way to build a connection, a rapport. Like if they're talking fast or loud, maybe you have to talk like this to get them down, and then you bring them down to where you feel like you both can be in a controlled situation. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, I love it. Thank you.
And then, like if they have to start going like this, then you start talking like them to this, and you start talking like them to this, and then you say, so what I was trying to tell you was that, and then, because I don't think anybody's ever really conscious about their emotional state of being or the pitch of their voice, but I will say men don't hear high frequencies as well as women, just naturally. I found that over my experience, my 48 years of experience. Or maybe not that much, because when I was 0, I wasn't experiencing it. But I will tell you that men don't hear. They tune out very high frequencies. So if you're a woman and you're up in their ear and you're up mousing it up in their ear, they shut you off. I don't even hear you.
So I guess you're saying that they have a low pass filter.
Yeah. Miguel, you understand. Yeah, for sure. And women, they might not respond to lower voices, but the voice of a child will make it all the way through. A high little tiny voice will make it all the way through to a more maternal person. Yeah, that's my thoughts about that.
I just want to say those examples that you gave with your voice were incredible. Like you can really tell that you're a professional voice actor just from those examples that you gave.
Awesome. I'm in the right place.
So quickly, vamos a hablar de comida. And I wanted to ask, what is your favorite Puerto Rican dish?
I can enter that in one. Pastelón. I love pastelón. Oh
yes.
my gosh. I could literally
I'm so glad you said that.
I could literally eat pastelon until it like filled both of my legs, filled my hips, filled my stomach up to my chest until it was like right up to my chin. I love it so much. And I don't get nearly enough of it in my life because it's so rich and so probably not good
It
for you.
is.
But it's so good. It's so good.
I just recently learned how to make it from my mom. My mom like finally sent me the recipe after I was haggling her for what, like a month or something.
Yes. So
And it didn't come out as good, but it was still really good.
So pastelon, for anybody who may not know, is Puerto Rican lasagna. And Tania, you can say what's in it. It's layered like lasagna. What's in it?
Yeah, ground beef,
Mhm.
cheese. It's just like lasagna. Yeah, you said it.
Maduros.
Yes, maduros. That's
Yes.
the important part.
So
The
that's what you
perfect
use instead
maduros.
of the like lasagna. I
Yep.
guess, what do you call that? Like a lasagna
Lasagna
noodle?
noodles. You just swap out the maduros for the lasagna noodles. Just swap them right. You just
Yeah.
just
And then immediately 10 times better. And you also cook the meat with sofrito and everything to spice it up.
yes.
Oh gosh,
So
okay.
good.
You guys are making me hungry. All right. So, in addition to your voice work, you also host a fantastic top rated podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I can, darling.
Ooh.
The podcast, where do we begin? Well, there are 2 episodes in case anybody made it this far and you're really excited to learn more about my podcast. Episodes 10 and 23. I believe it's 10 and 23. Yeah, 10 and 23 are the episodes we talk about how Dr. Jeff Robinson and I met, how we came up with the idea. But just to give you sort of a quick, brief overview, I met him at a writer's meetup here in Arizona because I wanted to meet more writers because I wanted to do more audiobooks. So I gave this presentation, and then this one dude, like a 60-year-old dude in the class, starts asking me all these great questions. So I was like, I'm going to talk to him after this. I just wanted to see if there's something there, right? So then I go to him and I say, hey, you have all these self-published books on Amazon. Do you want to make audiobooks? He doesn't want to do that. March 2020, and everything falls apart. And nobody can talk to anybody, and nobody can go anywhere, and nobody can do anything. And I called Jeff again. And I said, hey, Jeff, would you like to start a podcast? And he said, yes. So that's actually the beginning of the end. And then so we talked about it, and we talked about some creative ideas. And now we're in season 3 of Untold Tales, and we're actually going to plan a relaunch of it because it's just a grandpa and a mom making a podcast. It's like a mother and a son making a podcast. We grew it organically from nothing. Basically, just my mom was listening to it for a couple seconds, and then maybe a friend of hers would listen to it and was like, yay, 2 viewers. Or 2 listeners.
I know how that feels.
Yeah. Yay, 2 people are listening. Oh, yeah, it's my mom and her friend.
Yeah.
But that's still good, right? Because it's my mom.
Yeah.
So now we're going to start a relaunch where we're going to actually take all the assets and get more prepared. And now that all the stories are written, we have more to work with. Because keep in mind, he was writing the stories for our podcast as they were coming out. So if you think about writing 2 original stories a month and looking for people who write good short stories and sci-fi, it's really hard. So now we actually have enough material to start dripping as often as people crave it. So yeah, we're in 40 countries worldwide. We have 40 country listenership, and we are over 5K downloads. I anticipate that as time goes, that's going to skyrocket. But we all start small. So if you have a podcast, don't be ashamed that there's only a few listeners. Don't be ashamed that you're not in the top 200 in Apple iTunes. Don't be ashamed, because anything you continue for a long period of time, it has to grow. Everybody who's doing well right now started like 10 years ago. So you're going to do okay. Just have the dream and work towards it every day like it's a job, not like it's a hobby, but like it's a for real job. I fulfill the promise to my audience, 2 quality stories every month. Without fail. There's no options. That's what's happening. That's my promise to you. And if you don't approach it that way, then good luck, because it's very competitive out there right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody wants to start a podcast. I'm part of a cohort right now because I wanted to learn a little bit about tips and stuff like that I probably missed last season. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm also learning the amount of people who really want to buy the right mic, they want to have the right equipment, they want
Yeah.
to have all this other stuff. And I think they're so involved in what they need that they forget that they have to just be themselves
Yeah.
in this
And you have to
podcast.
plan. You have to
Yeah.
plan because you can't just get on the mic and start talking without
Yeah.
an idea of who you're talking to, why you're talking, what you want the show to look like in 5 years, what your show comes across as when people look for it on the web, on Instagram. You have to have a professional appearance, first of all, and then you have to have a plan of what you want to talk about and where you want it to go. And I think a lot of people end up starting a podcast and fading out because they don't have help and they don't plan, and then life gets in the way. And if I didn't have Jeff out there writing the stories and finding stories, and he does a crap ton, if this is not an explicit podcast, is a crap ton of work besides me actually producing the episodes. He does everything else. So it's a lot of work, and you do need more than one person,
Yeah.
working on a podcast for sure.
Have you always been interested in sci-fi, or did doing this podcast make a fan out of you from it?
Well, just to give you an idea, Sam Jones, who was in that 1980s movie Flash Gordon, was my first crush. So, yeah, sci-fi's always been in my blood. I've always been interested. It was a way my father and I bonded when we were younger. We'd watch all the Star Wars together. And being an electrical engineer, like the technical aspect of the science of the science fiction is just, wow, these amazing ships and the body armor and the electronics and the computers, and it's just so fantastical to me, but also very practical. Like when you watch sci-fi or you listen to sci-fi, you can kind of see like a roadmap of possibilities, and they're not too far away with what we know with quantum physics and all of that. So for me, I just freaking geek out on it because it's like, this is very plausible stuff. And what is crazy about our podcast is that Jeff is an electrical engineer, an MBA, and he's a project manager, and so am I. And what are the chances? Because I'm a Latina. Like, I don't look anything like Jeff Robinson.
Yeah.
But we both have the same background. And for him to respect me enough to put me in charge of his written works is like, wow, that's amazing. And that's really what you're connecting with anyway, isn't it?
Right. Well, you know about a podcast. You know that we talk about cultures, identities, stories, success stories, Latino success stories. How do you think podcasting can shape how we share stories about cultures and identities?
When you ask this question, I think, about interview types of podcasts. The way that I feel that I can honor the Latinx culture and empower the Latinx culture is just to be myself everywhere I go, because I am Latina. It doesn't matter if I'm 100% Puerto Rican and don't have an accent. It doesn't matter that my nose is a little bigger and my hair is a little bit coarser. It doesn't matter. Anybody who comes into contact with me is coming into contact with a human being with a heart and a mind and people that they love. We're more connected than we are separate. So my way of honoring my culture is to just be myself and not be ashamed of myself and not be ashamed of the food that I eat and the things I like to wear, or that I like to be funny in serious situations, or that I like to have fun with my clients.
Where can our listeners find you to follow along with your incredible work?
Thank you for asking that question, because sometimes connecting is hard whenever you hear somebody and then you're like, I don't know where to find this person. You can Google my name, Melissa Del Toro Schaffner, and it's a very unique name. It's going to come up. But the place I'm most active is on Instagram, Melissa Del Toro _voiceover. That's the place I'm most active. I have not voiced any cartoons for the Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, so I don't have gajillions of followers yet. But Pixar is on my radar. So someday I will be in a Pixar movie. You can put money on it. I don't know when. It's what began the dream of mine. And like I said at the beginning of this, we don't have dreams because they're not meant to come to pass. I mean, we are dream spinners. That's what we do. We create. And if you have something in your mind it's a gift for you to give. And that's something that I hope someday somebody gives me the opportunity to do.
So tell us the name of your podcast one more time.
Okay. It's called The Untold Tales. There's about 10 trillion untold tales out there when you Google it. So it's the only one that's Dr. Jeffrey A. Robinson and Melissa Del Toro Schaffner. They're about 15 to 30 minutes each, bite-sized for your daily commute. And if you don't commute, for your daily dishwashing or laundry doing or whatever it is you do in small bursts, waiting in parent pickup, you can listen to an episode of The Untold Tales.
And just to let our listeners know, you can also check our show notes where we will have links to where you can find Melissa Del Toro. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to see what's in store for you next. Hopefully work on some collaborations to bring your brilliant voice to Coquita Chef community.
Ay, I would love that. It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Qué cool.
Sí, muy bien. Muy bueno, muy bueno.
Muy bueno. Qué chévere. Uy, qué
Qué
chévere.
chévere. I don't know. Sometimes I think my accent goes like trying to pick which one, New Rican, Puerto Rican,
right?
Or like which one?
Whichever one lends the most emphasis to the moment.
Ah, sí. Muy bien.
Oh, that's good advice, actually. Yeah. Thanks for joining us this week on More Than Rice and Beans. If you enjoyed hearing Melissa talk about her future work, where she will definitely be on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Pixar one day, then make sure to check out our first episode of this season where my mom talks about her experience on a reality TV show called What Not to Wear. And to hear what else we have in store for this season, make sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review. It will help more listeners find our show. And if you're interested in learning how to cook traditional Spanish and Puerto Rican dishes, even a pastelón, sign up for our virtual experience with us at coquithechef.com. We're also beginning to offer in-person cooking classes. I would love to see you in New York, so if you are local or planning to visit, let's get you signed up for a class. You can also see our in-person and virtual classes at coquithechef.com.
We will see you here next time on More Than Rice and Beans.
And before we end the show, Melissa, can you tell us adios in a very sexy or fancy voice?
Adios.
Ooh.
Oh, that was pretty good. That gave me chills.
Ciao todos.
Ciao todos.
Bye.